Yo, what up, my people? Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, from wherever it is you're tuning from. It is the voice of Boya Chibe, your regular host for the Orientation Podcast, and I'm welcoming all of you to the Orientation Podcast, episode 5 of the Orientation Podcast. And you know how we do it here at the Orientation Podcast. Here, we take time to delve into deep conversations that people often fly past. And tonight, we're going to be talking about something that affects every one of us here because I believe that most people who tune into this podcast are youths. We're going to be talking about Forbes 30 under 30, who sets the timeline. We're going to be talking about quietly how the society has set a timeline that seems to rush us into feeling that we are underachieving at the moment, or into being pressured into wanting to do things that we're not supposed to do because we feel like we've not made it yet to where the society has put a peg at. So that said, we have a guest speaker in the house, and with me, as always, is my co-host and co-pilot that will be helping me to run this conversation, Omereze. Omereze, my brother, what's up? How are you doing? Happy Sunday, man.
Happy Sunday, boy. Chibe. Twitter is after our life this evening, but we are winning. Hello, everyone. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon from wherever you're listening. We're glad to have you guys here again. And yeah, this topic hits everyone differently because for some people, they don't just care. For some people, that's what their whole character is built on. And for some people, they are just figuring out now. They're just figuring out every day. They are figuring out. So yeah, our topic today is a lot to unpack, and our guest today is a great match for this topic because the pressure on Gen Z people is more than any other generation so far because of social media and all other vices. So most times when we go to all these homecomings, we get to interact with people and we get to think that someone else's timeline and our timeline are the same. Because we've been together, we've come under the umbrella term of what the white man called peers. We feel that everything we should do should be equally measured. So today's conversation is going to unpack whether or not our timelines are the same and who sets the timeline. So I'll be passing the mic back because this topic is really, really, really heavy and we're already behind schedule with about 34 minutes. So I'll be passing the mic back to the host so he can bring in the guest and we can hit the ground running.
All right. Thank you for actually unpacking our topic that way for the guests and the audience at large. Yeah, with not much said, let's actually delve into this conversation. Tonight, I'm excited to have Caleb Chimjikakam, yeah, who is also popularly known as Kimo. He's a final year law student and director of sports at the law faculty here in Ebonyi State University. He's a sports enthusiast and a thought leader with an open mind about life, society, and the pressures that we face as human beings. He's someone who thinks critically about expectations, social norms, and what success really means, and not just about the headlines. So join me to welcome Chimjika Caleb as we delve into the topic where we have today, Forbes 30 under 30, who sets the timeline. So Chimjika Caleb, what's up? How are you doing, man? How's your Sunday going?
Okay, greetings everyone. Greetings Otipos. Good greetings Omerieze. Uh, Thank you very much for having me here. I'm excited and I'm very happy. It's been a good day. It's been a good day. It's been a happy Sunday. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, my bro. Thank you so much. And thank you for granting us your audience. We really, really appreciate that. So let's hit the ground running immediately. Let's hit the ground running immediately. So I'm going to let's start simple. You get let's start simple. So let me ask you a very simple question, bro. Let's say let me create what I say an example or something. When it comes to, let's say, classmates, homecomings, or family gatherings, how do you usually navigate the pressure to show up successfully? When it's that time of the year when everybody comes back, and then your cousins are coming back, and everybody's has something to show off for, whether it's educational, whether it's financial, just basically the whole when the community gets together, you get, and then there's a lot of celebrations, and family and everybody comes together. How do you navigate the pressure that comes with it, of trying to be able to show up successful? How do you navigate that?
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's very normal that we all feel this pressure, especially as youths growing up. And in terms of navigating the pressure, I think the easiest way to do it is to look internally at your life and see how much success you feel for yourself that you have achieved. Now, it's not exactly about showing off. Is sometimes it's important to show off, but the how you boil down the pressure down to yourself is when you are happy with how far you have come. When you mingle with friends, when you're at gatherings, you see other people that are so success that have achieved so much success that they can show off. And then there is you that can't show off anything. So the easiest way to navigate the pressure is to realize internally how far you have come, whether it's academically, whether it's financially, how well you are doing for yourself this time around, not for any other person. So I think, in my opinion, the easiest way to navigate pressure in times like this is internal questioning, realization, and every other thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Indica, for that. Yeah. So you, in summary, you just said that the only way to handle pressure, or the best way to handle pressure as a youth in Nigeria under the current timeline, is taking a journey of self-awakening. I don't think that's realistic. You excuse me, but we all know in Africa, first of all, the male child has a special pressure, and they see a pressure on the female child. So at every point, every gender has a standard to meet, which is kind of stereotyped. And it's general. I like you said, it's okay. It's almost okay to feel this pressure, especially living in Africa. So I want to give you a direct question, because this question Boyachiba asked you, gave you space to rig my role and tell me about self awakening and internal awareness. At what age did you start feeling like you were late and that you were lagging behind? Or did you not ever feel that you were late amongst your mates?
Okay. I think this particular one boils down to me personally. I think when I started feeling I was late should be between when I was 19 and when I was 20. And that was when I particularly started mingling with friends who were, to some extent, achieving enough success for their age, and I was not. With friends who were, in quotes, chopping life. So when you mingle with people like this, when you mingle with friends, when you walk out in the society, it's very normal to feel this pressure. And I think between the time when I was 19 and 20, I felt this pressure intensely. But I would like to say I don't think it was right to feel that pressured. And I don't think it's right for anybody to feel that pressured, because when you are 19, when you are 20, there's still a lot ahead of you. There's a lot you can achieve in the next years. There's a lot you can achieve in that particular age. So I don't particularly think it's right to feel pressured. But because of the society we live in, because of the various families we come from, nuclear and extended, because of the pressure we feel to do better than our parents, to do better than our peers, we feel this pressure, and it's particularly not right, but it's understandable. I think that's it.
Yeah, definitely. It is understandable because aga hapụ onwere onye ga-emere hapụ ibe ya na ọ
Yeah,
ga-emere ibe m ka esi emere ya. So it's very relatable when you come to think of it, and almost every boy child has this pressure at its peak within 16 to 19, depending on your family, your environment, and every peculiarities that make you who you are. But the pressure is inevitable. So I
true.
think this your answer opens up a bigger conversation. And I want to ask you, how often and how much do people mistake these social comparisons, the fact that we are age mates and you're doing better than me in the perspective of one person? How far do people go with these comparisons and actually link it to actual failure or the word late? If you could even explain to us what late means, is there anything like late? Because they say God's time is the best.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'll start with whether there is anything like late. You know, there is often motivation that says that you start at your own time, or that no time is too late to start. And personally, I don't agree with that. I think there is a right time to start. There is always a right time to start, and there is a better time to start. But I also feel like there is a late time to start. In as much as you might start late and it still works out, there is no way you would know how much more it would have worked out if you started earlier. So I believe that in life there is a time late. There is at some point in time you have to start making decisions, have to start having these thoughts about how you navigate your life, about how you want your life to be. And the earlier the better, definitely. So there is a time frame, I would say, and there's a time where it is late already. Then compare how often people liken social comparisons to failures. I think is quite very often, and it's to some extent has become a norm in the society, but not just in the society, in the family, and a whole lot of places. But let's start with what this social comparison is. Now, as a growing boy, as a growing child in an African home, when you get back from school, you have your reports, your result sheet, and you show it to your parents. And maybe for some people it's a double digit, but for some people it's a single digit. But I'll talk the family where I came from. I always had to cope up with my elder sister. She was always producing good results. So when I started to think for myself, maybe sometime in my primary one, primary two, I realized that no matter how good I try to become, I need to be close enough to what my elder sister is producing. So I started to put in effort. I started to read. I was not always a brilliant student, but it started to pay off. At some point in time, my results became better. Then when my results became better, I started to grow. Then I would come back and I would maybe be the third position in class. And the question would be the person that came first, whether the person has two heads. I believe this particular question is very, very random in African homes. So you see, there is no ending. There is no ending of this pressure. When you come fourth, you have to make it into the top three. When you come third, it's about the person who came first and the person who came second. When you come first, it's about the person who is. When you come second, it's about the person who is first. And then when you come first, eventually, It's about how poor your average is and how there are dollars in your class. So that is the academical aspect. And I think that is the that eventually it grows into the financial pressure when the time is right. So with comparing with social comparisons, comparing people to their peers, I think people liken it to failure very often. But for some individuals, it's a source of motivation, and so for some, is not. For some individuals, it's a source of discipline. And in family, for some parents, for some adults, I think it's more like them looking back at their life and seeing some mistakes they made and how relaxed they were about their life and how and what they have realized about life over time, and they feel like as a growing teenager, as a growing person, you need to look beyond your personal life, your personal comfort. You need to measure your success with the success of others. That I very well don't agree with, but sometimes it goes well for some people and is a source of their motivation, like I earlier said. So it's very often than normal that that people use social comparison to liken other people's failures in life. But I think what matters the most is how you direct what you direct this pressure and what you direct these comparisons and what you decide to do from it. So I don't know if I've answered your question.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. You've answered that question. You've done justice to that question. Yeah, but while you were answering the question, you said something that I actually caught interest with. You said that these things tend to happen between the age ranges of 19 to 20. You get in typical men from West Africa, Nigeria per se. But then you said that at some point you began to outgrow it. You began to think for yourself. You began to know that these things are not really what they seem, and then this pressure that people want to put on you is only if you let it happen, then it will happen. I want to ask, how were you able to achieve that feat? Because I think it's something that it's very hard for lots of youths to be able to do. How do you able to attain that level of self maturity, self confidence, that you're able to know that nobody's timeline is my timeline? Whatever is happening with people, yes, it should motivate me to want to do better for myself, but it doesn't mean that I'm a failure at where I am at the moment. I want to know what happened, what changed your thought process. Is there a story behind it? Did something happen? Because me, I think I have the story behind whatever changed my own mindset. So I think I want to hear from you. What changed your mindset?
Okay. When I talked about the age frame 19 to 20, I was talking about me personally, not generally. For some people, it's earlier, for some people, it's later. But to answer your question, there is no particular experience that hits me with that realization. But I think there were quite series of it, small bits of it. At some point, I think I would say it was after the pressure had gotten into me and I had tried. You know, at some point you try, and then for some people they give up, for some people they don't. I think I was part of those that gave up, and it was not exactly giving up, but that's what I thought of it at the moment. I thought it was me giving up. So when I had just decided that my life would go as the wind blows, I started thinking, Then you realize that the primary thing is not everyone comes from the same place. You have a different upbringing from other people. You grew in a different environment from other people. Why some things work for some people, it might not exactly work for you. While some things favor some people, it might not exactly favor you. And while, in as much as you might be more hardworking and more willing to do some, to change your life, to change your story, to be able to meet up with social comparisons, it just doesn't work that way. And you start to realize, I think that is the moment when it hits you and you start to ask yourself, how late exactly are you? And what do you measure your success in? Some people measure the very normal way is to measure success financially. That's what it should be actually. The most successful you can be is to be financially successful. That's my personal belief. There are quotes like being grown intellectually, personal development. I agree very well. You should develop personally, but they are just talks. The society we live in, the most successful you can be is being financially successful. But then you look around, some people are working this hard and they are seeing results. Some of them had to grow up without parents. So maybe it's just the heavens showing them mercy. Then there is, it's just, I'm not saying this to sound weird or awkward, but like it was how I thought to myself. Now it's a personal something. You now think maybe it's just the heavens being smiling on them, and you just be happy for them, and you just look back at your own life, and you just decide to be comfortable, just a little bit comfortable with where you are, and make little progresses.
All right, all right. Yeah, thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, that said, I told you I had an experience. I thought that the experience I had was with my dad, you get, when he was there. I think when I was in secondary school, I always used to come third in my secondary school. Third, second, mostly third because I was a bit of nonchalant. I knew I was smart, but I didn't want to like do the extra work that make you come first or second. I was always okay with third, fourth even. So I will always come back, and then my dad will be like, the same thing you just said. Why are you always coming back with third position or fourth position? The person wey carry first, you get to head, all those kind of talk you get. And then he used to pressure me to want to do better. But me, naturally being someone who was okay with being third position or fourth position, at some point I would just say, make I just go carry this third, but you no even be say e too bad sef. People wey dey carry 16th nko, abi 18th nko, people wey dey carry the class for head nko, you get. So this was my personal thought process growing up. So there was a day I now mistakenly, I think I eavesdropped on the conversation between my dad and my mom. I brought back my result, and then he yelled at me. After yelling at me, I think I came second in that position. He yelled at me so bad, so mad. I was like, for second again. Then when they went inside the house, I think they were having a conversation, my dad and my mom. I then interrupt them. My mom was saying, why were you shouting at this boy like that? He took second and you were shouting at him, and those grades were nice. And my dad told her that if he did not shout at me for taking second, that I was going to become so complacent with the second that I might even drop down to fifth or sixth. That is why he decided to like pressure me by making me feel that the second was not good enough. So this backstory, why I'm painting this backstory is because I want to actually set a question. You get two questions actually. The first one is, do you think that motivations like this, because I want to call it motivation, although the way they will frame it, some children might not want to see it as motivation. Some children want to see it as their parents not being able to be pleased. You get. And then when a child starts seeing it that way, that whatever I do does not please my parents, I think it shifts from being motivational. The aim of whatever their parents are doing for it to be motivational shifts from being motivational to being pressuristic, sort of. You get. And then it makes those children drift away. So what I'm saying is, I don't know how your upbringing was, but I want to ask: do you really think that a person's personal family upbringing, has a way of shaping their zeal and their hunger and drive to be successful? That's the first question. And the second question I want to ask is: do you also think that the well-being of a person's family can also shape the success rate of the person? Let's say if this person is so-called born with the silver spoon, as we like to say, does it make them tend to be more successful than the other people who are not born with silver spoons? What is your take on this?
Okay, thank you very much, Boyachibe. I think this is a stress question, and I'll answer it in a straight way. Whether family upbringing shapes people's hunger for success, I think the answer is yes. the kind of family you are brought up in determines how hungry you will. Not always, but very often. If you grew up in a family, now it's not about your parental upbringing, how good your parents were as parents, but this time around it's just about the environment you were born into. If you were born into a poor family per se, growing up you might not be able to think for yourself because you have not been exposed to a lot. But the moment you begin to hit 12, 13 years, and sometimes you are in boarding school, sometimes you attend day school, but you see people whose parents are way better off than your parents. When you attend boarding school, you see people that have much more pocket money than you could even imagine. There are people whose pocket money would be whose termly stipends would be much more than yours. And so some people it serves as a motivation. It serves as any other thing. But parental upbringing now, I think the way you are raised shapes your hunger for success. You said something about motivation like this in the way your parents motivated you. I very well agree with that. But I think also it boils down to self-awareness and self-thought. You have to think. Some people don't understand this is motivation, and that is the point. Sometimes is the fault of the parents also. You were lucky enough to have overheard that conversation. Some people are not. For some people, after that conversation, they have time, they spend time with their moms, and she explains this. Your dad is not trying to be rude, your dad is not trying to be wicked to you, but he's trying to push you to do better. He's trying to motivate you. There is a saying normally around my village that someone climbing a tree knows he should hold the tree firmly so he does not fall. But you on the ground, you have to keep saying, hold the tree firmly, hold the tree firmly. So he knows, and so he's self-conscious and stuff like that. So I think yes, family upbringing shapes people's hunger for success to a large extent, actually. Then the second question, whether the well-being of your family improves your chances of being successful or guarantees you being successful. I think yes, it improves your chances of being successful, but it does not guarantee success. The well-being of your family. I'll start from the roots. If your parents are not, if your parents are well enough to send you to good schools, you have better chances than someone who did not attend good schools. You have better chances of acquiring proper knowledge, and it increases your chances of being successful in life. If your parents are good enough to, in the world we live in now, to link you up to certain places, some people have the ideas to go successful, but they don't have the validation, they don't have the funds, the financial capability to push their ideas. Now, if your parents are well to do, per se, and they are able to first off send you to good schools, first off, your parents are educated. I think it should also count as your parents being well to do. Your parents are well educated and they know how the Western worlds work. It increases your chances of being successful. Thirdly, if your parents in the world we live in again have the said connections, it increases your chances of being successful. If your parents can be able to, part of the reasons why people don't become as successful as they are meant to be is because of responsibilities. You are at a young age, you are not making enough as you are supposed to be making, and there's a lot of responsibilities on you already. I think it's decreases your chances of being successful because the money makes returns when you invest it. Now, when you are burdened with these responsibilities and you can't make anything out for yourself. But if your parents are well to do and they are able to shoulder these responsibilities for a little longer, and you're able to stand firm, you're able to gain ground in whatever you're doing and get yourself together, it also increases your chances of success. So I think that's my personal opinion. Family upbringing does shape your hunger for success, and the well-being of your family improves your chances of success, though it does not guarantee it. Thank you.
I cannot, words cannot express how much wisdom is coming out of this small boy's mouth. But we'll continue. So Chimjika, you mentioned a lot of things. I've written down a lot of things. In fact, you've taken me out of the talking points I prepared for this conversation. You mentioned upbringing, and it's a very important factor in whatever pressure you're facing, whether it's academic, financial, emotional, nature, and nurture. Like Boyachibe was saying, naturally, he didn't care. I was that kind. In fact, I am that kind of person. I am completely unbothered. Nothing moves me. Yeah. Shout out to my dad. My dad has been on the podcast since we started. He doesn't stress me either. He knows that I don't have energy and that this one I've done is the one I will do. It's not that I cannot do more, but this is the one I will do. And he understood me that way and he walked that way. So at the end of the day, it's not about heavens giving you a chance to listen to a conversation. It's about you understanding who you are working with, both from the parent side and the child side. I got to a point
Yeah.
where I could express myself with my parents and understood that it was not pressure. They had a standard that they expected me to meet, and the burden
Yeah.
was on me to either meet it or not. So it's not even a do or die affair, even at that point. That was where you came in with
Mm.
giving up, that you felt that you gave up. At a point, I felt like I gave up too, but I
Yeah.
figured out that giving up was part of courage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy failing because even when you mentioned something about late, you said that you can never know how much you could have made if you had started when you wanted to start, and that's when you think about starting late or you started late. So I prefer to start and fail than to wait till it makes sense. So you
Yeah.
when you were ending your question, I mean the answer to Boyashibe's question, you mentioned something about the family and the condition of the family being a factor for success, but not being a guarantee to be successful. So I want you to break that down a little more for me. Now I'm a child that grew up in a home where there was no competition. My sister was the one that knew book. My brother knows book too. I was the one that did not care. And naturally, because God do one for me, naturally I was intelligent. I liked to read. So I was exposed to a lot of things inside the house. I didn't need to go outside to experience things. I did everything I did inside my head. So naturally I became content in my head. There's nothing outside that fix me. I can be dressed in rags and whatever you're saying, I pass you. You don't get everything you want to. But then there are people that even though they know they pass you, because they are dressed in rags, they just feel inferior. They feel so. Does it still boil down to the family? Because I know people from rich families, I know people from educated families that when they are just in a situation that feels like it's faltering their position, they just fall off. And you can't even recognize them in their full capacity of who they are anymore. Is that one pressure? Is that low self esteem? How does that come into this pressure? And does it still go back to the family or is it a personal something?
Okay. Thank you very much. If I understood your question, I think you were trying to figure. I think this time around is about personal life choices, right?
Yeah, yeah. Like no, no, not exactly. I meant you
Okay.
said that family condition, the position of a family, educationally, financially, and otherwise, is a very salient factor for success, but not a guarantee to be successful. And I'm saying yes, that's true. But I use myself as an example. I'm not from a very rich home or all of that, but get where I keep myself because I have grown inside my head. I was not an outsider. I didn't know people. I didn't have friends. All my friends were imaginary, and inside my head, we had our conversation, and all of them they hail me. So if you come outside, you know, hail me. People they hail me inside my head. Now there are people that need that external validation. That's where we come back to that social comparisons. People that need external validation for motivation, for whatever reason, does it boil down to family?
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. I think I understand you now. Earlier on, Boyatibe asked a question about motivation also. He said whether I thought motivation like this drives people's hunger from success. When he asked that question, he was talking about motivation from parents, about grades in school. Now, to answer your question, I think it's about what you feel your motivation is. It's very normal. It's very normal for people to seek external validation. It's very normal. And thank you very much. You exempted yourself.
Chinjika, can I cut you in there a bit? Let me just explain something because I think you're missing one particular point of this question, and that's the important part of this question. It's the question is more about self-worth than it is about motivation. So the question was framed for you to for us to understand that there are people who come from rich homes, you get, but when they are not, maybe let's say they are dressed in all fine clothes, and then maybe something happens, and then there's oil poured on their clothes. It's a very fine dress, but because there's oil poured on the dress, they feel so ashamed of themselves. They cannot even step outside. They cannot even socialize with people. Or let's say something happens, and then their main dress gets burnt or something, and then they have to like wear a dress of a friend or something, and then they no longer feel comfortable in their own skin because they feel like the society is no longer going to see them as rich and powerful. Whereas there are people who their parents don't even make enough, and then you see them walking with head high. You get, they are working in their, what would they call it? What is called that thing again? In their thrift wears, in their, what's that popular name for this thing again? Oh, okereka. Yes, you see them working in the okereka, and then they do get past you say we wear clothes from boutique, and then we are asking, you get. I think that's what Omereze is asking. He's asking this self-worth, this self-importance, this notion of self-importance, what can we attribute it to? Can we attribute it to self and personal development, or can we still bring it back to the family upbringing, the way your parents mentor you to understand how life works and how you should think for yourselves? Or do we need to bring it down to how the person, the individual themselves, understand life and how they have chosen to live their life?
So Chimjika,
Okay, okay, okay.
Let me just read this quote from Fyodor Dostoevsky. I think it will just guide you into what you are saying. He said,
Okay.
"Talk nonsense, but talk your own nonsense, and I'll kiss you for it. To go wrong in your own way is better than to go right in someone else's." So now, the whole encapsulation of this question is: at what point do we differentiate low self-esteem from pressure, from age pressure, from meeting up pressure? At what point and where can we attribute it to? Is it to the family or to the individual?
Okay. Thank you very much. I think I understand the question better now. And um, I think it's a bit of both. Upbringing determines that to some and to some extent personal development does. Remember when I said something about there comes a time in your life when you have to think about yourself. You take pieces of everything you have learned while growing up, advices, motivations, and you make sense out of it. Now, down to the scenario Boyachibe painted. As a growing child, if you grew up in a family where nothing but your best was accepted, when going to church, you can't even wear anything that is not shoe to church. You can't wear palms to church. Let's not talk of slippers. While stepping out of the house, you are well kept. You can't go to school any day without your shirt being ironed. You can't leave the house without your hair being properly combed. You can't leave the house with a bushy hair. I think as you tend to grow up, you get used to these things, and there is a set standard already for you to meet. In terms of the scenario is about dressing, but in terms of every other thing, there's a set standard for you to meet. Now, falling below that standard, in some other world, it's normal, but in your world, it's not. In the environment you grew up in, it's not normal. Maybe it's normal for other people, but not for you. You were taught from time that this is a standard, and you are never meant to go below it. I think it has to do with parental upbringing, the way a child is brought up. But at some point, you realize just a bit below this standard is not doing bad. Just a little bit below this standard is not poor enough. A little bit below this standard is nothing bad. And you just feel like, I think this is okay. But at the same time, you need to be careful not to fall way below. But just a little bit below could just be okay for you still, and it could just be the ground you need to get yourself running and any other thing like that. So I think parental upbringing does the lays the foundation for situations like this. It helps to direct your self-esteem. And for some other people who grew up in families where the parents weren't well to do, sometimes the parents couldn't even take good care of themselves, not alone to talk about their children. And we were just okay with, they were about okay with wearing rags on the streets, just like the scenario you mentioned, just rags in quotes. They were okay with wearing anything, walking out on the street and stuff like that. And to some extent, then personal development comes in, and you start to hear the quote, you are addressed as you are addressed, you are addressed the way you dress, in terms of dressing, in the way you view life. You understand that you need to do better than your parents did. Maybe your parents were comfortable with the way they were bringing you up, and they did not really see the need to like push you to get a better future. So all your life you did not have the motivation you required. But there comes a time when you need to sit down, when you are exposed to social comparison. I think that's a good benefit of social comparison. When you're exposed to social comparison, when you begin to see people from other families and you begin to envy them and you begin to want to be like them, you start to dream for yourself, and you start to make little changes in the way you think about life, in the way you walk, in the way you approach people, in the way you ask for help and do any other thing about life. So I think it's both a bit of the way you are, the family you are brought up in, the environment you grow up in, and at some point, I always like to emphasize at some point, because nobody is giving birth to with a brain full of thoughts. So at some point, you start to think. There's always a need to start thinking as a human being who is in life. You start thinking and decide to shape your life in the way you would want it for yourself this time, not exactly meeting up with social comparisons or stuff like that.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for tackling that question very expertly. Thank you very much. I think we should just like move on to like our final segment, which is we bringing it down to real life experiences and how you think people can navigate it best. You get. So let's like when I started, I said something about homecomings, and oh, this is where it happens a lot, like secondary school homecomings, university get-togethers. This is where it happens a lot, where you get to meet people you have not seen in 5 years, and then you're afraid. This one's going to tell me, now I am a lawyer, or I own 15, I employed 15 lawyers and I pay them now. I'm a doctor, I own a hospital, a private hospital, and I still work for like four different government hospitals. I'm an engineer, I have like 15 houses that I've built. And then in your head, you might not have achieved all of these things. You get that these people have said that they have achieved, and these people are your classmates. You get, then I want you to help me understand. I want you to help me and the audience to be able to understand how does these things, how, because I think it has happened to every one of us here. How do you relate to things like this? How do you absorb pressures like this? How do you show up to social gatherings like this? Because for some people it makes them not to want to interact with people. When the social gatherings like that, they go just dey their house. They no want make dem come, make dem ask dem wetin dem wan achieve with their life. So they zone out, and then they don't even want to come out and interact with people. And the society we are in now, you need to interact with people, you need to come out to understand the things that are happening and be able to gain information and even how to gain opportunities too. So if someone zones out because of they don't feel like they have done enough, how can they now do enough? So what we are asking now is, how do you relate to things like this, and how do you think people can be able to tackle situations like this so that they can be able to show up to conversations like this, show up to meetings like this, to get together like this, and not feel intimidated? That's what I was trying to talk about, being self-aware. No, it's not about being proud, being self-aware that this is who I am, and it is not about being who I am. It's not saying, you're not saying you're comfortable being who you are. You're just saying that this is who you are, and you know that this is who you are, and that you're working to be better. How do you create that mindset for yourself to be able to show up in conversations like this? That's what I'm asking.
Okay. Thank you very much, Boyachibe. And the scenario you painted is a very regular one. And truth be told, I think is a very common experience around teenagers and around me personally, it is. But I think a good way to start is what your definition of success is. I would like to hear this time from you, Boyachibe.
I would like to interject because you just said everything in one sentence. What do you define as success? And that's where the question of this topic comes in again. Who sets the timeline? Who sets the standard? Who is the one dictating when you're succeeding? And the moment you answer this question is that point of realization that you were talking about, Chinchika. Once you
Mm-hmm.
answer this question, which is what is success to me? What will I do now? And I feel like I've succeeded. When you're able to answer that question honestly and feel satisfaction from the answer you got, you have realized. And that's step one. Well,
Well,
I
I
think
think at some point there I want to differ. People can get to ask these questions and then answer it wrongly. Society can help them answer this question too. They will ask the question that what is success, and then they don't get to answer it themselves. Social construct answers it for them. You get to then answer, it's like success is being able to have a tech company running before you're 28, being able to have like 4 degrees before you're 26. Because of this is what is happening at the moment in their life. This is are the things that are happening in their everyday life. They're seeing it happen. They're seeing their friends doing these things. So it's not like it's an impossible feat. It's an achievable feat, and they're seeing it happen. So it tends to shape what they think success is too. But what in reality, what we are trying to explain is that now success is in the ability, like he said, in the ability, like Mary said, is in the ability of not just knowing that this is what qualifies as success, but in also being able to appreciate it. It's in the appreciation. It's not just knowing that this is what success is, it's in the ability to appreciate that this is what success is. So me now personally, I'll share something I do that helps me a lot. It helps me a lot. I call it the cookie jar method. What I call the cookie jar method is, anytime I'm feeling down and I feel like I'm underperforming, I get a pen and a paper. and I write out how my life was the previous year. I'm talking about the funny things, the things that you don't even think about, that you might not even call success. Let's say the way I wake up sometimes and I forget to dress my bed, or the way I step up sometimes and I don't want to take my bait. All those little misdemeanors that you might think is not success, and then I now check the next year, and if I see that I have fixed most of these things, these little things, I count it as me being successful. And it's funny when you tell people things like this, because if I think, me personally, if you're not able to appreciate the little things, then how can you appreciate the big things? It's you knowing that you not being able to wake up early before, and now you're able to force yourself to wake up early and get to work. It's success. Even if nothing is coming out from the work yet, the fact that you were not doing it before and now you can be able to do it, it means that you can put your mind to something and achieve it, and you've done it. Simply, you've just done it. Like, that you've made money from it or not is at the side. The fact that you said, I'm going to wake up by 5 a.m. every Monday morning and I'll go to work, and you do it, and you do that for 1 week, you're successful. So this is what I think when I talk about success, and this is what success means to me, the way you asked. But then, why orientation podcast is here is for us to be able to enlighten people that they should be able to make out success for themselves. And it is only when they are able to make out success for themselves, that is only when they will learn to be comfortable in their own clothes and in their own skin. Because now nobody pushes them, nobody pressures them anymore, because they know what success is for them. And whatever every other person thinks success is not what it is for them. But then there's a catch to it before I pass the mic to Mereze. While you're setting these standards for yourself, do not totally overwrite what the society thinks success is. Because there's something the Igbo people say: when a child is crying and pointing a hand, if the mother is not there, the father is there, or there's a relative there. What I'm trying to explain is, there is no way that a group of people will come together and say this is what success looks like, and then there is not an iota of truth in it. It means that in all of those things our parents tell us, that you need to go to school, come out, you graduate, you get a good job, get first class, might even teach. It might seem impossible to most of us. In fact, at some point, it feels ridiculous still, but there are truths in it. You get? There are truths in it. In it, you can see that there are fragments of what success actually is. But what you need to do is not take it the way people paint it for you. It's for you to be able to handpick from what people paint success to be, and be able to create your own timeline of what success is to you. And this is where I think a lot of us youths are getting it wrong and getting pressured. And I think if we fix this, personally, this is what I think. If we fix it this way, it's going to get better. So I'm going to pass the mic to Mereze for us to hear what he thinks of how people can be able to navigate these pressures and be able to relate with people and get to people. And then we'll pass the mic to you, Chimjika, so that you can be able to conclude this, because we've had a whole long night and we've had a wholesome night. So Mereze, what do you think, bro?
Yeah, your point of view was very, very important because the fact that you're seeking answers does not mean you will always get the right answers. And that's why people feel exams. And then at the same point, it is okay to fail. Yes, it's okay to fail. There's a meme I saw this morning. It said it's better to have an oops than a what if. Do it and fail. Yeah, do it and fail. It's at that point you feel that you get aware. You know what you're not doing right. As much as you fail, as you keep failing, as you're failing, you're learning. As you're failing, you're getting awareness. There's an awareness you need to build for you to feel successful. Success is not in your bank account. Success is not in your degree. Success is in your head. And until you get the feeling of success, you can never meet up. It's as simple as that. Like what Achieve said, the little things. I was in BizCon in 2025, and Ezekiel's Solesi, yeah, it was him that said, he said, declutter your mind of the little things. Sweeping house, cleaning house, making your bed. Those little things declutter your mind and give your head space for the big things. You will not be thinking of how you will go to one Yopa and also be thinking of how you're going to build your tech brand, and you're still lying on your bed at the same time. Then you will text somebody and tell him you're bored. You're not doing anything. You don't even know where you are, who you are, and what you're here for. Until you understand and answer these questions for yourself without any external validation, understand your realities. Chimjika was saying something about you see people you want to be like them. It's actually achievable. Are your realities in terms with their reality? It's as simple as that. And that's why I barely have issues with people, because I want to know their realities. Why is this person reacting to me this way? And that will determine how I'll react back. So it's not everybody that has that headspace, but you need to create a level of self awareness. Even the Bible said it. I think that's Matthew 6:33. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and everything will be added unto you. What is the kingdom of God? You find yourself. The moment you find yourself, every other thing will be added. You don't need to find money. You don't need to find degree. If you find yourself, every other thing will be added. Everything will come seamlessly because you're confident. I know many people that failed exams not because they didn't know what to write, but because they were not confident in what they knew. So at a point, doubt comes in and you just lose everything because you've not built awareness. You don't know where you are. You don't know who you are, and you don't know what you're here for. Then after you've built this self-awareness, the only way you can protect it is with love. Kafka said the purest form of love is self-love. If you don't love yourself, there is no way you can protect this self-awareness that you may have taken years to build, and to know that if I'm doing 1% every day. Currently I'm on like 368 days on like 21 airdrops I'm doing. None of them have paid me shishi, and I've been doing it since March 2025. And I'm still doing it. Why? It's this consistency streak that started, and I must complete it. And the fact that I show up every day I come and I click it and I see that yesterday, day before yesterday, the day before yesterday, I showed up. I'm happy. I'm satisfied. Once I check in every day, I feel like I've gone to work and come back, and my wife should just serve me food. And I'm happy. I'm satisfied. I am relaxed. I may not have fishy in my OP, but I have the confidence that if I need money, I'll get money. And that's a level many of us need to be operating on. Until you reach that level of awareness that your worth is not determined by what is in your account, or how many followers you have, or how many verified followers are following you, or how many people like your post, you will never break through this pressure, and you keep walking by the timeline set by others. And Fyodor just said it clearly. It is worse. It is a sin. It is an abomination to go right in someone else's way. It's better for you to go wrong in your own way. So Chimjika, I would love you to just wrap wrap up this conversation. Give us your extricate on what you think we should do as African youths to reset the timeline, or rather to take back the timeline into our own hands and work with our own timelines.
Okay, thank you very much, Omeleze. You said a whole lot, and I loved it personally. But first off, I think we can all agree now that one of the best ways to navigate societal pressure and set timeline for making it is by self-realization and self-awareness. But that aside, let's go over to Boyatbe asked about how we cope. That some people ask the question, what is success? And they are unable to answer it for themselves, and the society answers it for them. So let's just speak for ourselves. What we think the society, or what the society poses for us as being successful. In my personal opinion, I think the society poses for us as being successful as a young growing child. when you make good grades in school, I think not just your parents, even your parents' friends, your family friends, they can acknowledge that you are doing well. When you have the right moral upbringing, they can acknowledge that you are doing well. To some extent, the definition of being successful is being able to provide for yourself and your family, especially as a male child. To some extent, to a large extent, also for female children, also just as a growing person, you're now supposedly obligated to be able to provide for your family, provide for yourself very well. And I think that's the society's definition of success. But how do you navigate the pressure to be successful outside self-realization and self-awareness? Earlier on, Boyachibe painted a picture about not wanting to attend secondary school get-togethers, university reunions, or personally, I have friends that don't attend gatherings like that. And the only reason is they will be able to do so when they get a car. Now, most of these friends are 25, 23, 24, and it's already visibly clear that their definition of being successful or what they understand as being successful to their friends is at least showing up in a car at the very least. But then there are people who have landed properties and they can't show it off. You can't attend your homecoming with your land documents because you want to show off that instead of buying a car, you bought landed properties. Then stuffs like that. So I think you realize within yourself, and more than realizing within yourself, you look at the chances, how you are coping. Like I said, these people are within 23, 24, 25. The supposed timeline, at the very least, let's say 28 to 30, the society expects you to be making something out for yourself, 28 to 30. But now, people tend to get these pressures on themselves and they want you to feel bad for them because the society set a certain timeline and you think that's why they are feeling this pressure. However, they are the ones personally mounting this pressure on themselves because I don't see need why you are bothered about getting a car in 22 when you can even have the money to get a car and you would not want to at 22 for saying. So it all boils down to self-realization like we have agreed on. Then secondly, the environment you find yourself in, the kind of friends you keep, the the kind of people you listen to, your mentors and stuff like that. When you hear people's idea about life, you are able to make when you listen to good people, to reasonable people, you're able to make reasonable decisions about your own life. Then thirdly, it's about determining what this pressure becomes to you, whether it becomes motivation, becomes discipline, or it becomes a sign of weakness. For some people, the pressure becomes a sign of weakness. And they are so pressured to get involved that they ignore the little wins, like Boyachibe said. For some people, it becomes a motivation. And they also ignore the little wins. They are unable to appreciate the little things. But they are intentionally avoiding that appreciation so they don't get relaxed. They don't want to appreciate little things. So they don't feel to themselves that they are doing well enough. They have been able to see the pressure that is being mounted on them and they are comfortable with working with that pressure, struggling to meet up with it, than sitting back and celebrating the small wins. So I think to a large extent, the society sets the timeline, while in some other scenarios, it's personally inflicted. Then the the best way to channel it is self-realization. There is no better way to channel pressure. There is no better way to navigate it than self-realization. You talked about personal realities. And I agree with it. You see what's possible for you. It's very okay to dream big. It's very okay to dream big, but you take little steps at a time. You take little steps at a time. You don't dream big and not wake up from your sleep. You are comfortable with sleeping and dreaming. It's you don't achieve goals that way. You don't the pressure keeps getting worse on you, and at some point you just break down. You just break down and you feel like you deserve pity, whereas you're not. And that's when it comes to being late. When it works out like this, when things like this happen, you realize sometimes, but then it's late enough already. So I think that's the most I have to say about that.
Thank you very much, Kimon. Thank you. You really rounded up the conversation, especially bringing in the part that some people bring pressure on themselves. Nobody brings the pressure, not even society, because we don't even give a shit about them. But then they want to carry the world on their shoulders and want us at the same time to pity them. And I'm one of those people because, and my brother too, my other brother, my dad always has a problem with my other brother. Every time he's on the phone with my other brother, he's telling my brother will be telling him there's no time, there's no time. And my dad will be asking him, I'm approaching furiously hitting 70 and I still think I have time. And you that just 30 something, you feel that you don't have any time again, there's no time, there's no time. And I listen to that over and over and over again, and I figure that we are the ones putting pressure on ourselves. And earlier in this conversation, we mentioned it. Now, if your father already has a house, do you know that your pressure has reduced by like 50% from people that their parents don't have a house? But then you will see somebody that his father has a house, and the person just wants to be just suffering. Why? Because he wants to be at the same level his mates are. His mates are living alone, they are driving car, they are, and all of that. He wants to live at that level. When these people don't have the same realities. This guy that is driving car and living in rented apartments in town, his father is living in a mud house if his father is still alive or if he has parents still. And then this is the person you're measuring up with. He might be an only son. You have like four siblings down the line that you should be thinking about. And all you're thinking about is how to meet up. So at a point we get to a level where we are the ones doing ourselves. And Kanye said this thing is you against you every day. And until you conquer you there's no going forward. And you rounded that up. And thank you very much. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure really having you. This 1 hour was really worth it. So I'll be handing the mic over back to OT Pod to round up today's conversation and call it a night.
All right. Thank you very much, Emereze. Thank you very much, Chimjika. I'm really, really thrilled to have the both of you delve into this conversation with me. And I really like how it has turned. I really like the way it turned. Yeah. So basically, we've talked about everything. We've talked about everything that needs to be talked about. We've talked about the important things. And the key takeaway, the key points here is first off, you need to define success for yourself. Genuinely define success. And then there's something you told me, Chimjika, one time ago when we were having a conversation. It's not like you said it to me, you said it in the midst of where people were. You told one of our friends, you said he was trying to live above his means. And now that Omereza said something, it reminded me of that statement that you made, Chimjika, where you said someone was trying to live above their means. And then I want to put this out as a takeaway for every youth that's going to be listening to this. Dreaming big does not equate to living above your means. What I'm trying to explain is it's okay to dream big, but don't live above your means because it will only bring desperation, frustration, and it will only lead you to want to do things that you're not supposed to do. I think I want to explain it further, but then we're already done for the night. But basically, what I'm saying is, you already said it. Your dad has a house, and you're schooling in the vicinity where your dad has a house, and it's comfortable for you to go to school from your dad's house. And you know that your dad gave birth to four other children with you who are also in the university, and you want to have a lodge.
knowing fully well that your dad does not earn enough to be able to put you in a personal lodge and your other siblings in a personal lodge. However comfortable and whatever reason it might seem to you, maybe because of you want to have your personal lodge because your friends have their own personal lodges, you're a big boy, and how can you be in the university and still be coming to school from the house? And then you start to pressure yourself when you should gladly come to school from home. It doesn't make you less of a big boy. I have a friend, he came to school from the first day of we in the university. From the first day till the last day, he always came to school from his dad's house and went back that same day to his dad's house. And he was one of the biggest people in my class group, in my peer groups. He always had his say when conversations were going on. It didn't make him less of a person because he understood who he is and he chose not to live above his means. So what I am telling everybody that's listening here is it's not okay. It's not just okay to understand what success is. You should also have to realize that success also means you shouldn't dare to live above your means. You should dare to dream big, yes, but then live within your means, because that is only when you can be able to be comfortable in your skin. You don't feel pressured, you don't feel disturbed. So that said, we'll be coming to the end of tonight's conversation, and I'm really glad to everybody that tuned in. And just as we normally say, this new episode is going to be available in all distribution platforms from tomorrow, from 12 this morning. And I can't thank you all enough. You are the OT gang. It is because of you that we are doing this, and we are really glad that you get to tune in with us every day. So it's sad to see you go, but then it's not just sad goodbyes. We'll be seeing next Sunday, same time, same venue here on X. And until then, I would be leaving you with stay focused, stay oriented, keep the drive open, dream big, and live within your means. Thank you once again for tuning into the Orientation Podcast. This is your host, Boy Achieve. Peace.